Good evening and welcome to Sheetalath Conversations 60th Historic Illustrious Sunday evening 7 p.m. IST show. I hope you must have all spent your Sunday very well as per the plan and design of the weekend, which normally we do for 5 6 days. And all of you are in best of your spirits and best of your moods. And you all must be anxious uh, to open up to today's program at 7 p.m. While summer of present year has surpassed its adolescence, and we in India are facing scorchy sun, you know, unfamiliar sun, which happens for the part of the year. These programs, the Shitalath conversation anecdotes, uh, these supper time programs on every Sunday
I,
bring a bit of
you
respite,
don't have to.
bring a bit of, relieving and rejuvenation. That's what I think. Uh, Our Sunday rendezvous opens up to, this very colorful and informative, as well as colorful, informative, and rapture anecdotes, which enable us to connect to the world of spectators across the country, across the globe, and those glue into this, wonderful, beautiful mosaic that that baskets these great, colorful shades of the civilization which we all belong to. With great gratitude and indebtedness, we once again uh, welcome all the esteemed followers, esteemed beholders of this great program, which is broadcasting every Sunday at 7 p.m. with overwhelming response for everyone. Kashmir, that is the prime subject we talk about, the crown, cradle, and cathedral of Indian civilization. Time immemorially has also seen, besides the wisdom and knowledge, has also seen great valor, great warriors like Laltaditya, and so many. Because Astra and Shastra in ancient times were part of the Kashmir, like Indian, because Kashmir was the, cathedral, ground of Indian civilization. So Astra and Shastra Vidya was always there because without the morality, without making understanding the ethics and other things about the varying community, things would go stray, and people will they will divert, they will denigrate. So that's why all these things were together put by the great masters, great legends of the past. Since centuries, Kashmirs are migrating from Kashmir and settling into the rest part of the undivided India they used to settle till the independence finally came in. And they have played a very, very significant role into Indian independence. And we have marked number of personalities who from Kashmir, like their other counterparts in the country, those have played a great role into the freedom struggle. And as far as the warriorship is going, as far as the being the soldiers and generals and the police chiefs and the army chiefs, erstwhile princely states, Kashmiris were always there. They were there in the Second World War, and as part of the other associates, other brothers from India, and they were also there. There is a presence of Kashmiris in the Indian National Army, which was headed by one of the greatest leaders of our times, that was Subhash Chandra Bose. So that is how the story is. Before I begin further, ramble further, I would like to put a very beautiful couplet, present a very beautiful couplet of Iqbal Saab. मंजिल से आगे बढ़कर मंजिल तलाश कर, मंजिल से आगे बढ़कर मंजिल तलाश कर, मिल जाए तुझको दरिया समंदर तलाश कर, हर शीशा टूट जाता है पत्थर की चोट से, हर शीशा टूट जाता है पत्थर की चोट से, पत्थर की चोट से पत्थर ही टूट जाए वो शीशा तलाश कर. Today I'm going to walk you through this zip line, this flying fox advent, unraveling the amazing stories, amazing of a great Indian general, army general, uh, who has been the proud native of Kashmir. He was the Associate Surveyor General of India and the Gentleman Cadet and Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, Director of the International Boundaries Directorate, the first director of International Boundaries Directorate, and he's also a commandant of Digit, Defense Institute of Geo Geospatial information and trainings, whose name is Major General Pran Kaul. Pran Kaul needs no introduction as far as his illustrious works and illustrious career is concerned. He has been held in great reverence and high esteem by the people in the defense sector, into the survey defense, and other sectors of Indian administration, because of his illustrious work, of illustrious work of mapping and defining the international complex and gigantic international borders of the country. He was also among the earliest pioneers, earliest people, earliest team of India who went to the Antarctica for the purpose of the mapping, for the purpose of the survey, which was already, which was already a national event, telecasted and filmed, and decorated nationally. He has many phases and many this facets of his personality. He's a very good orator. His lectures are very prominent. He goes around the very prestigious organizations where he has spoken, and he has also written several articles, abundant number of articles. He's also a great author who has written the book The Silence Speaks. It's probably an anecdotal account of his life and times, and it's also about his childhood, where he was born in a Sopor, the town, the apple town of Kashmir, picturesque, with the cliffs and the mountains and the brooks and all other wonderful things around. And then he's finally going to the Rawalpindi on a mission of the country, and where he was deputed for a special work. And then another book of his, which is about his lifetime poetries, uh, Resonant Ripples, probably, I think it is so. And we are going to talk about our entire conversation is going to encompass through and through his times, his younger days at the apple town of Kashmir, Sopor, the picturesque land of Kashmir, the land of torrents, land of springs, land of mountains. And then we are going to talk about his illustrious, very widely spread career in the army and in the military surveying. And we're also going to talk about his authorship, about these two wonderful books which he has written, and also a number of things about his defense days, about his times and expeditions, most challenging expeditions at Antarctica and NEFA, up to the where he went up, they went up to the McMahon line. And so we are going to talk about all these aspects without wasting much time. I think with great, enormous affection and profound reverence, let's welcome this legendary personality, one of the great generals, great son of Mother India, great native son of Kashmir, Major General Pran Kaul Saab, into the studio. General Saab, you are welcome into the 60th illustrious, historic Sheetalnath Conversation show. It's a great privilege and great pleasure to have you in our show.
Jai Hind, Jugal Koul ji.
Jai.
Jai
Jai.
Hind, good evening, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, Namaskar to all the viewers who have logged in for the show. I'm sure there'll be many viewers all across the globe because your program is so popular. And at the very outset, let me thank you very much for providing me the platform of Sheetalnath Conversations and be part of it actually. It's a very standard show as I have been experiencing for the last few weeks, and it's a matter of pride for me to be part of it actually. And let me congratulate you for
Thank
bringing
you.
in the quality into the show and making it almost perennial every week.
Thank you
A
very
big
much.
applaud to you and a big shout out to you, right?
Thank you very much, General Saab. This is a great opportunity to have a conversation with a army veteran who has done so much of work for the country. And certainly, I know that we are going to be enriched by your experiences of your life and times. And certainly, this is going to be a great, memorable conversation. But before we begin and amble into your journey of your life and career, let's first of all, as per the this prerequisite need of this program is that we take the visitor to the younger days of his life. And I know that you have been born in a very wonderful place, the apple town of Kashmir, Sopot, and you have written about all about it in the book also. But we'll talk about book a bit later. And you had been there, you were born there, you were brought up there, and under those landscapes, under those beautiful salubrious climates, the brooks, the springs, and the mountain peaks. Let's jog down to your memory lane of your childhood, and let's look at those wonderful places where you lived, where your family lived, your father, your siblings, your cousins, your friends, the institutions you studied there till you finally went for the Indian Army, and the social ecology, the cultural ecology, the landscape, the fest, the culture, all other aspects, the wonderful aspects of the Sopor, because Sopor is such a wonderful place and people also know very little about it. So it's a coincidence, such a great general, such a great son of Mother India is here, and he's also son of Kashmir, Sopor. And today we'll be able to know more about Sopor in the first segment of this company. Please elucidate, sir.
Well, I think I'm fond of telling that I'm from the dense streets of Sopot.
Okay,
That place, that mohalla was known as Mohalla Sangrampura.
Saddam.
It was adjacent to another mohalla. They are more or less overlapping each other. That was called with the Batapura, actually, right?
Okay,
So we had, it used to be called those days also Chota London, the apple town
yes,
of Kashmir. I am born and brought up there. It was not the same as it is today. Even I don't know whether the present generation will believe how we lived there. Our house
yes,
was located in between. In fact, my father was also born in Sopo. So was my mother. She was from the Batapura Mala.
Patapur.
And my grandfather had also been there only. And then we had a house. I remember when I was a child, couple of years, maybe 2, 3 years. I remember our house had a thatched roof. It was a single story house. I remember telling my uncles to give me a stick, you scratch it out of the thatch, right? But then subsequently, my grandfather, he added some 2 stories to that. It became a 3-storied good house, actually. That also, I remember the construction. I was a very young child, actually. And the beauty about the location of the house was that on one side we had the Muslim cluster of Muslim houses, Muslim households. And
Okay,
just on the other side next to it, we had Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus' houses, actually. We were, you could say, something like a no man's land, if you say today. But the beauty was so much, the bonhomie was so much. Frankly, I have not only liked loved those days when I was in my house, but also the days when I was in the school. Not only when I was with Hindu neighbors, but also with the Muslim neighbors. They have loved so much that it has left an impact on the personality. And I would also like to tell you that I am from the teacher's family.
All right, great.
My grandfather was a teacher, a very, very known teacher in Sopor. And my father was also a very good teacher, a very good educationist. And the coincidence is that there's a very famous school which is still there. That's called Middle School Baba Yus. My
Okay.
grandfather had been headmaster of that school, so had been my father. He was first a teacher and then he also became the headmaster there. So that is about the background of the family. There are many stories which I think
Yes.
as we go ahead, if you want, I can continue with that, or you want to ask
Yes,
me
yes.
something
Yeah,
else.
yeah. No, no. You can just continue with your childhood, your school, where you studied, your
Yes,
inspirations, and the people, and the cousins, and the bone homie. We can just extend it a bit in the first segment. Yeah.
right. In fact, the bone homie was so much that our immediate neighbors was a Muslim family on the left side, and I told you right side the Hindu houses cluster would start, right?
Right.
And this lady, well, I think I must have been about 3 years. I still have some remembrance of a few shades. My parents tell me that I developed some problem on the right leg, some skin issue.
Okay.
And this lady would take me to her house, put me on her bed, and they say this process and major part of the day, and sometimes at night also. And then she would take me to that Hakim and all,
Right.
rub those lotions, and this thing continued for about a month till time I was fine. Actually, my parents repeated it many times when I was grown up. Probably they repeated it so that I register it, and both of them are not there now. But I can just say they have been successful in making their trial. I have registered that part in my heart and mind. Actually, so this was the bonhomie. It's unbelievable. We had another family. They were called Doshabas. My grandmother was very particular that I have a cup of pure milk, which was scarce those days. And these Doshabas came to know that Muslim lady came and told my grandmother, we have a cow, but it suffices our requirement, but I will be sending a cup of milk every day to your house. They would call me by pet name Kakaji, right? And I will tell you a very touching story. My mother
Yes.
would normally collect this cup of milk from them every morning. One day she was quite busy. She sent me there. When I went there, I went a little late. So this lady had kept this milk in a pot, in a metallic pot. And when I went, she put it in my glass in the container that I had taken.
Right.
And then she put a little few drops of water in in her container, rinsed it so that the last drops of the milk also comes to us. And her husband was watching just near to her. He was a person with long white beard, and he scolded her. He said, why are you putting those drops of water in your utensil and rinsing it? She said, I am just seeing that a few drops are left, they also go. He said, no, no water should be put in the milk that Kakaji has to take. You see, today I remember that Muslim gentleman with a long beard, and I pray to God that his soul should be blessed in peace. This was the time. There are
Right.
some other stories about such neighbors, right?
Yes, please.
I would definitely like to share it maybe as we go ahead, or as we go ahead. Actually. So this was the bonhomie, right? And if you may permit me to
Yes, yes,
continue,
please continue. Please continue.
and my grandparents and my parents have narrated some stories of 1947 when the Kabalis came to Sopor, and Sopor was highly involved in their
Oh,
offenses and brutal activities, actually.
yeah, it was a.
And
I've
yes,
heard
and
about it.
my grandmother, after the delivery of I had two uncles. Our third uncle had got crippled somehow. There was some medical issue, and she was absolutely crippled, right? And she would tell me a lot of stories, maybe put me to sleep in the evening, tranquilize me with those stories. And they told me that when 47, when these Kabalis came, everybody would run away from the house. My grandfather, my father, and they went towards Wooler side. They hid in jungles. And my father would carry my grandmother on her shoulders because she was crippled. And they would run for miles and miles to
Oh,
hide in the jungles, right? And then they would come back to the house, feel the Kabalis would have gone, but they would come in waves. Then these Doshabas, the people that family who would give that cup of milk to me, they had taken them to their houses, all the ladies, my grandmother, my mother, and all. And then they had given their clothes to them. They camouflaged as Muslims.
okay.
And when the Kabalis came, they would mistake them as Muslim ladies. And that is how they have survived. Otherwise, maybe they would have not been there. And maybe I would
Is
have
it
not been there today to tell you this story.
is it that Kabalis spared Kashmiri Muslims, or even they looted even them as well?
They actually were very much against Hindus, right?
Yeah,
And against those Muslims who supported Hindus. Suppose Dushabas, had they come to know they are hiding the Hindu ladies,
they would have been
they
killed.
would have massacred them, right? So that was at the cost of their lives, and we cannot forget that. I mean, since I've seen it being told, and I've seen such families. So we have to also, keeping the present thing in mind, we have to also remember that these things have also happened. All
Yeah,
these
I
things I
mean,
brought into that the
of
silence
course.
speaks, and some young readers gave me a talked on phone. They said, had you not said, we would have never believed that there was something like this, or you would live like that. So these are very touching stories.
Very touching, very I mean, very intimate ones. And in those
Yes.
times, you were in the border town. Your town was also, a kind of it was full of those greeneries and forests and the springs and the water bodies and the birds and all these
Uh,
things.
our town was basically a township. Water
Okay,
body is nearest, of course. Jhelum was it would flow. It flows through the Sopor town, and
okay,
Sopor town is located on both the banks.
yeah,
The nearest attractive water body was Wooler Lake. I think it was about 2 to 3 kilometers from our house. And मुला की दौड़ मस्जिद तक होती है, हमारी दौड़ वुलर लेक तक होती थी. Right. Jhelum,
you
of
to
course,
feel
was
that.
flowing all the time. Right. Then I studied there. I feel proud in telling you. I feel very
Please.
proud in telling you that I'm a product of government schools.
Great.
Right.
Government schools have produced so many great people in India.
In fact,
Legendary people in India.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, you are right. Actually, in fact, my grandfather, I was at just crossed four, touched fifth year. So I remember he put me in a school called Sangrampura School, primary school. Right. I remember it very green that he carried a bag on the left shoulder, and he
Okay.
carried some, we call that shearing sweet sugar balls
Sugar
and
balls. Cereal.
peanuts, yeah, in another bag, and held my hand and took me to that school. Actually, I also remember very clearly he was at the top of the world. He was at the top of the world when he did that, and then he got me enrolled through a teacher called Rajab Saab, right?
Rajab.
And then he left me there. after talking to them, I never knew that a very serious chapter of my life has started, right? Then this school was shifted to another building, very near again to our house. This was also near to our house. That was slightly new building. And then the teachers were there. It was a different environment, absolutely different. I remember we had a teacher, he was called Nabsab, right? He had a very long beard, and he used to have a very long stick. He would call us by our father's names. Suppose I am Pran, he would not call me by Pran. He would call me by Nandakol. That was my father, and that was for everybody. And then he would start beating without any reason, crashing from, because he had a long stick. And everybody knew, and everybody prayed that the lightning doesn't fall on his head, right? But then the teaching, they were so good. I owe such teachers a lot, actually, right? And my father was,
inspiring
pardon?
people during childhood.
Inspiring
During
people.
childhood times, those inspiring teachers and inspiring
Yes.
people.
And I was wondering, sorry, you were saying something.
I also wanted to know about you celebrated life. Kashmiris have many festivals of celebrations. Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Muslims as well, but Kashmiri Pandits have n number of Vedic festivals going on time immemorially. So how did you celebrate life?
I will tell you, but I think here I have one or two important stories of this school.
Yes, please.
If you permit me, because that has a lot of effect on the present generation. I was wondering why my father has not taken me to his school, because that was called School Baba Yusuf.
Okay.
And that middle school Baba, it was known for the academics throughout the district.
Okay.
And it had everything good that a school had except the school building. Everybody expected it to fall down anytime. Whenever we climbed the stairs, they would creak with pain. They would cry out of pain. But the academics was very, very good. And I will just give you an example. My father was very famous in the district in teaching English and maths, as Jivanji has also told you, Jivan Zitchi, right?
Yeah, Jivanji once
He was very famous, very popular. And then when I was in fourth standard, he took me to, I migrated to his school, maybe on my mother's persuasion, right? Okay. And then one day, we were being taught maths, not by him. I was in a different section. We were taught by Mr. Muhammad Ramzan, right? And he was a very good teacher. By the way, he was a president awardee. He had been awarded the best school teacher in J&K state 2 years before. And when he was teaching us maths, he got stuck up in a very long question. He tried for 5-10 minutes. He could not go ahead. Then he told one student, go and call Nandalji. He was teaching in the next room. Nandalji was my father's name.
Your father, yeah, Zutchi Saab said about Nandalji was my teacher, yeah.
Yes, Nandal Kaul, yeah, right. And then some student went, he called him, within a minute or two he came, they smiled. And Mr. Muhammad Ramzan told him, I got stuck up here. Nandalji, kindly see how do we get out of it. They discussed for 1 or 2 minutes and they solved the problem. Then they shook hands and my father left. I am sure he would have left the classroom with enhanced respect for Muhammad Ramzanji. Reason? To ask when you don't know a thing, actually. Right? This was the culture of schools that Kashmir had drummed too much in them, actually. I thought I will share this story with you.
I think you were talking about celebrations and festivities in the place where you lived. How your nannies, grannies, masis, sisters, brothers, they got together. What was the atmosphere like? I mean, I really wanted to take a panoramic view about this. How did celebration happen in Sopore? Because it was considered that by all standards, Soporis were rich. I don't know. That was the saving in the Srinagar. People used to say that Soporis are rich. They have the apple orchards. I mean, they are the well-off, the landlords. Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. they had, maybe our family was amongst very few who didn't have an orchard, right? We were a family of teachers, right? In fact, in Sopor, those days, there are two festivals which would be really celebrated. You would hear the echoes of those festivals, okay? One was Shivratri, another was Eid.
Okay.
The day of Shivratri, as it is to separate for 3 days, right? And the day of Islam, a lot of people, the porters, masons, carpenters, safai walas would come and all, right? Visit our houses, take some bakshish and go. It was a very, everybody was in a celebratory mood. We will get that, somebody called the Harris Courage, right?
Yes,
And go
correct.
for a movie. There was a summer talkie there. One hall was there, right?
There was a hall, cinema
And
hall there.
the
That's great to know.
internet issue, yeah. And the day of Salam, what would happen the first day? We were 5 brothers. We are 5 brothers, actually, right? I have
Okay.
twin brothers also. Maybe otherwise we would have been 4, right? So the Guruji would come in the evening, and we would be hungry because that day would be the vegetarian. The Salam day would be the non-vegetarian, and he had number of clients. Actually, it was good if he would come to us early. Otherwise, he would come at 2 o'clock or something. But then when we grieve, we 5 brothers would separate in different 5 directions. Catch him from somewhere and get him to our house at the earliest, right? And the day of Salam was the day we really looked up to. All my father's Muslim friends,
Okay.
a good in number, would come to our house. My father was a very good host, a lot of non-veg dishes, snacks prepared. And they would come hug my father, go to my mother also, wish her happy Shivratri. And then they would have I should say, a high tea supplemented with these kebabs and all, actually. And when they would go again, they would hug my father, and my father would go and see them off. This was and we looked up to this day that my father's friends would be coming again. Similar thing was for the Eid. My father's Muslim friends would wait for him to come on that day, and maybe they would respect it the same way.
Same way.
Yes. These were the two festivals we looked up to.
Okay. That's so wonderful. And there were other festivals also, like in Kashmiris, we have the festivals like Pan. Pan is there. Pan.
Yeah,
Pan.
Yeah,
Pan
Pan
is a
that
great
road.
road
Yeah.
is a great festival. And there are many other small festivals they come up.
Yeah. They would look up to that because there would be good roads to eat, right? So right from the morning, you would wait for that, and there would be a lot of puja and all. Then they would make those. My mother would make those days. They would bake these roads within, over the coal or fire. Nowadays we fry them, right? But those days, my mother, I remember, she would bake them, very healthy roads and all, actually. Right,
That's
and
so
then
wonderful.
they would make what they call that buzwangan, put over it, and we would,
Yes.
yeah, and we would be waiting with appetized tongues when they would do the puja, and we have it, actually.
That's so
Similarly, there
wonderful.
would be Diwali, but Diwali, Kashmiris didn't celebrate with that fervor as they celebrated Shivratri.
Shivratri was the major festival.
Shivratri was the
The land of
main
Shiva, considered to be
main
land of
festival.
Shiva.
Yeah,
Shastra and everything has come from there. General Sahab, I mean, before we amble further, I would like to say that you had an illustrious career in the army, and you have done so much work, and there's a lot of detailing about that already available. I would like to say that by learning, you are a mechanical engineer and then
yeah.
photochromatic. So,
I'm in a
yeah,
habit of interrupting, right?
yeah. Please do, please do.
There are one or two great stories about the
Okay, please, please.
school, right? In the school, as I told you, was the middle school. Then we went to the higher secondary school, right?
Okay,
And there was a
great.
great change. This school was had like English blocks, blue stone, single-storied, red tinned roofs,
Okay.
big lawns, great playgrounds, right? And there were very great teachers. Its labs of higher secondary school, Sopor, were known throughout the district. Actually, it had very good laboratories and very good teachers. Instantly, I don't know whether you heard the name of Mr. Trilokinath Tikku, T.N.
I don't.
Tikku. You have not
I have
heard.
not.
He was teacher in the same school. He was a great educationist. He was known throughout the state, right?
Right, sir.
He was absolutely with no. All these people were had a lot of Hindu and Muslim friends, no communal tinge at all, right?
Those times.
And I believe, and I tell you that when he would walk through the Sopor market, he was my maternal uncle. I am not
Okay.
praising him because he was my mamaji, but I have to tell you that he was respected so much. When he would walk through the Sopor market, on either side, the shopkeeper, say on the left side, would get up, sit down, the second shopkeeper would get up. This would happen on the other side also. A
Right.
sine wave would creep up for about 1.5 kilometers. It was a sight to see the respect he commanded and all.
That's so great.
Though
That's so great.
instantly he was the teacher who had sued J&K government for some indiscriminatory rules which were
Oh,
applied to the two communities, wherein one community seniors were given promotion and the other community who had been their teachers, they had to serve under him. And finally he
oh,
went to the court and got a Supreme Court decision and that flaw was rectified. But he had
that's
not done it on communal basis. He had done on the matter of principles. Even after that,
that's
he had so much respect and all amongst the Muslim community.
that's so great. Wonderful. I mean, you were going to correlate another story. You said that you're going to
Yeah,
have a
I will tell you. I will tell you when he expired in a few years back. Then Sharifuddin Sharik, you might have come to know about him. He was a member parliament in National Conference regime, and he had been there for a long time. He was pet of Sheikh Kubla and Farooq Kubla, right? And when he
right.
learnt about his death, he was in Srinagar. He sent a message that his body should be retained in his house because he wants to shoulder that when he is taken to the for cremation, and he
Oh,
did it, right? So these were big. These were the times, and even in these bad times, there were people who still had respect for the genuine people.
that's so great. That denotes the basic culture, basic ethos. Because I think Kashmir was not communal, and over the years the venoms came in because during the period of long periods of Dogra rule, and
Yes,
before that also it was never a communal state. Later on,
because
I don't know. Gradually, it has surfaced up now. That's very
yes,
amazing, very astonishing for everyone. Uh, so, Jal Sahab, do you want to add on certain spots, picnic spots, and places, temples in Sopot? There are
yeah,
certain.
we had two temples in Sopor.
Right.
One was an old temple. This was a very old temple, Shiva temple, right? And in
Okay.
the same compound, we had Rishpir temple.
Rishpir also.
And we would celebrate Rishpir's birthday every year. Reason being, they say when Rishpir mother
Hmm.
was from a place called Gushi,
Rishi.
right? His father was probably from, not probably, was from Alikadar.
Okay.
And when she was in a family way, she went to Gushi and then came, was on her way back in a boat to Srinagar. But when she reached Sopor, she gave birth to Rishpir. That's
Oh,
why you had got big temples, one in Alikadal and one in Sopor. That's the background. That's how we would celebrate Rishpir's birthday
also.
every year. It used to be a big event in amongst the Hindus there. We would
That's
also
so wonderful.
celebrate Janamashtami, and people may not believe, then on the day of Janamashtami, some child will be turned into a Krishna. Then there were that Ras, number of groups playing Ras, and
Raslila.
this procession would go through all dense streets of Sopor on either bank, through all the
Oh, that's
Muslim and Hindu localities. And Muslims would stay there. They would stand there and enjoy those processions. And never a wink of hatred was there that time. You can't imagine it probably at present.
great. Wonderful times. Wonderful times. Wonderful. I mean, those days were full of salubrious climate, salubrious environment, ecologically as well as socially. All these
Yes,
things. So,
yes, yes.
you were talking also about some spots, some picnic spots, some springs, and some certain salubrious places in Sopor.
Yeah, Sopor we had another temple across.
Okay.
That was also a Shiva temple, but that was made even when I was a child. We have seen that getting built, right?
Okay.
And people were fond of going to see it. It was about maybe 2.5 kilometers. That was a big. That used to be called Nandakishore, right?
Okay.
So yeah, people would go on boats generally with that yellow rice tar and all,
Uh,
right? Yes. And suppose they would keep, if I get this thing, then I will go to Nandkishore, take her and all like this. So all successes would be celebrated in Nandkishore, see, right?
that's so great. That's so wonderful to know about these places. And you had the springs and what? How did you take the water? Was it from the Yarbal, the
Yeah, it
river,
was
the
from the Yardman River Jhelum. River Jhelum was would flow.
tributaries,
In fact,
tributaries, or there was spring waters as well flowing?
no. We would take, and then tap water was also there.
Okay,
Subsequently, I think maybe by the time children grew up, we have
okay,
seen tap water, right? But
that's okay.
at times tap water is not there, so people would get it from Jhelum.
That's so wonderful. Wonderful to know about the beautiful ecological things about. So, Jalsam, now we'll come back to the programs and slightly move ahead, amble
Yes,
ahead, and crisscross ahead. And I would like to say that you had a wonderful career, an illustrious career in an army, and then you have done the army surveying also. That's very illustrious. That's very exemplary, and we all know about it.
you may also talk about the college life a little.
Yeah, we
Uh,
can we can talk about that also. You can
uh,
just begin
uh,
with your academic college where you studied, and then we can talk about the
yeah,
mechanical engineering, and then your photochromatic engineering and survey engineering and other
yeah,
things. First of all,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
begin with academic. Yeah.
Yeah, the college was, I studied higher secondary school and then
Yeah.
joined college for almost a year. It was a waiting period to get admission in the engineering college.
Right.
I had no inclination to do the degree in college, right?
Okay.
But during that 1 year, I studied in Sherwani Degree College, Sopo. That was the only college we had there, a very good college. There, I wanted to share a story.
Right.
The principal of that college was Abdul Salam Dar.
Okay.
He was known as one of the best disciplinarians and a strict principal in those days in the whole valley.
Okay.
He would arrive dot from Srinagar every day, and you could set your watch when he would enter the gate of college. And he would not accept anybody coming late. I remember we had one Professor Ogra teaching us physics. He was late one day because he would also come from Srinagar every day. The
Okay.
Salam Sahib was basically a physics knowing professor.
Okay.
He entered our lab. I remember we were due for a gravity experiment. The way he taught, and in the meantime, maybe after 10-15 minutes, Professor Ogra came. He straightway joined the students till the time he finished the full class. He was very strict. And one thing
Okay.
good about him was that he was not strict only in college. He was strict outside also. drivers would not load buses if
Okay.
Abdul Salam Dar was in the bus for Srinagar. And one
So
day
was
it had become the talk of the town. He boarded the bus. Driver didn't realize that Abdul Salam Dar had boarded the bus. There was a session judge also in the bus, and he had overloaded. The driver had overloaded, and then he turned towards the session judge. He told him, "You should be ashamed that the driver is having the courage to overload his bus in front of you." Then in the meantime, they say the driver heard Abdul Salam Dar is there. He told all the people to get down. So this had become the talk of the town. He was so strict.
so
And from
then
there, I got
you went
into the Regional Engineering College.
Srinagar.
Regional Engineering College, Srinagar. It was a lovely college,
Beautiful.
beautiful
Pristine
campus,
beauty. Lake
beautiful
facing,
campus.
Chinar
It has,
temples. Yeah.
I think, one of the best locations in the whole world that college had. I remember one day, Wadekar had come to the college. He was friendly to our principal, Dr. Dev. I remember it was Sunday, and he came and visited our common room, anteroom. Our anteroom was so good. And when he entered there, he told that he has not seen such an entry room in any institution so far. It had everything. It had the best teachers, the best professors. You might have heard about Professor Labru.
Yeah,
He
I've
would
heard
teach
about
us English. Oh my God. Dr. T.N. Dar, he would also teach us English.
Dr.
There were
Waklu also.
Imtiaz, Dr. Waklu was there. Dr. Imtiazuddin those days was considered as third mathematician in the country. He was head of department maths. Similarly, we had electric engineering, very strong faculties. It was known for the clubs. It had beautiful clubs actually. In fact, incidentally, when I was in second or third semester, the notice was placed that you contribute your poems. The selected one will be published in the college magazine. I contributed one poem down the hill of Udhampur because I had just gone to Udhampur during vacations. It was selected by Professor Labru and published. And then he called me. He told me, "Keep up this hobby. It will help you in future." I still remember, right? Maybe I have kept up his advice, right?
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. You passed out from this from now NIT, then REC, the
Yeah.
beautiful location. It was not less than an Oxford, not less than a. I mean, it's a beautiful location. I've seen it myself. Wooden
Yeah.
structures and everything was there. Old
And
campus.
then
Your
and then
time.
jetties in that over Dal Lake. We had two
Yeah,
jetties of beautiful.
jetties. It's a wonderful chinar trees.
I,
Those
you know,
chinar,
I I prepared my summer semesters on Nagin Lake. I would take a durry with me and books and go to the Nagin Lake near houseboats. And all summer semesters I have prepared there actually, during my preparatory leave.
so salubrious, so amazingly beautiful, pristine, placid
Yes,
lake down.
yes.
So finally, you came out from there, and then you studied. I knew that you studied about the photochromatic engineering and surveying engineering, and
I
also
was allotted chemical engineering there. I switched over to mechanical because I had heard that I had the bug of joining the army, defense
okay,
force. I heard chemical engineering doesn't have that scope in the army. Not that I would have been selected. There was a chief of staff waiting for me to come, but somehow I switched over to mechanical engineering. Luckily, it was
you
accepted.
joined IMA. You didn't try for ND. I
No,
don't know
and
whether
I
it's
tell you, for joining IMA, in
yeah,
fact, when we finished the final year, I'm from that generation. We used to have 5 years course, 10 semester course actually.
okay,
A- And when I finished that, we finished our exams and all. Then we are told, you go home. We will send you. We will communicate to you when the project Viva was is there. We had submitted our project and all. So we went home. There I came across an advertisement about admission in IMA. So I just filled up the form. I got a call, surprisingly. It had gone by just ordinary mail. Then I went running. I also got a call for the project Viva Voce. So I went
Wow.
running to the head of department. It was Dr. Bala Subramanian, a very well-known design expert. I was in his good opinion because I throughout a merit scholarship holder, right? So I told him, sir, I'm caught in a catch-22 situation. He said, what is the problem? I told him, you called me for the project, and it is overlapping with a call from SSB. Not that I'll get selected there because that's a very tough exam, but I wanted to see where I stand. He said, well, I will not come in way of your exam. He picked up his phone, gave a ring to the Thopper Engineering College in
Patiala.
Kerala. The head of department was coming for our project Viva Voce. He told him, I have a problem. I have a student here. He has got SSB board. He has to face SSB board and it's overlapping with this. Can you change the dates? He said, okay, we'll change the dates. And he told me, get going. I will get the dates changed. When you come back, this will be held. Had he not done that, maybe I would have not, my career would have been absolutely different. I thought I will just tell you that he's responsible for that.
That's so wonderful. I mean, they were the great teachers and they had the
Yes,
pains for the students. They used to help students. They were the original people, original flesh and blood. They were not this what do you call it, this imaginary and this all virtual, caricatures as we see
yes,
nowadays. I'm not
yes.
satirical, but it happens all over. They were pure
That's
body,
it.
pure flesh, pure brain, pure heart. Those times were different.
Yes.
Jalal Sahab, I would like to say that now, in case you are finished with your engineering and then you went for photochromatic engineering and survey engineering, give a brief detail about that. Then we'll definitely go into the main arena of your work, into the Indian Army and the Army mapping, RV surveying. Yeah.
In fact, what I straight away went from, I was selected in the SSB and joined the Indian Military Academy. Right. So Indian Military Academy, we had a two-term course for 1 year. And I
Okay.
passed out of Indian Military Academy. I was commissioned on 15 December 76
You became gentleman cadet.
as a gentleman cadet, and there are a lot of stories of that, right?
Yes.
I don't know,
Yes. You can share.
but
You can share for me.
I will pick up one or two, maybe not all, right? And that is basically we do a two-term course, right? And when I went the first day, it's a very tough course. They ensure that your heart weeps all the time, right? Because they train you in tension. They want you to deliver in tension. I reported late because I was temporarily rejected for undergoing a temporary operation. They said, in case it is fit, you come.
Okay.
If you get operated upon and you are declared fit, you will join. So I got operated upon and I was directed to Military Hospital, Bhopal. Dr. One Colonel Ahmed was the president of the board, and he sent me to the surgeon specialist.
Okay.
He looked me up. He said, "No, operation is not okay." I was shocked, and then I went to Colonel Ahmed. He said, "Sunny, I'm very sorry. My specialist is not approving your uh, operation the way it has been done." So he said, "You go get it tied up again and come again." So I went back to home. I went back home, and the specialists who had done it was among the best ENT surgeons in State Hospital in Srinagar. And he said everything is fine. Anyway, he fiddled with my nose. It was a deviated naval septum operation. A few blood drops came again, right? And he said, "You go. I think there should be no problem." Then I went to Bhopal again. By that time, the course had started in IMA.
Okay.
And then I went to Colonel Ahmed. He said, "You go to this specialist again." This specialist was not again satisfied. I don't know, this Colonel Ahmed had developed some soft corner for me. He said, you go to Bhopal Medical College. I'm
Okay.
giving you a letter for ENT specialist there, who head of department ENT. Let him check you up and give me his opinion. He checked up, he said, you are perfectly okay. So he didn't take his specialist opinion. He took the opinion of the head of department ENT of Bhopal Medical College. That is how
Oh,
I got finally selected. But he told me that I am selecting you provisionally because his specialist had not cleared it. Right?
okay.
You can go to IMA, but all probabilities will be rejected from there. But I went to IMA, they had no problem with my physique and the operation. That's how I continued. I thought this was a good story to tell you,
Yeah.
right?
Any more thing you want to tell about those days?
In fact, when I was passing out, there is a good story. When I was passing out,
Hmm.
my parents had been invited by the commandant, like they had invited parents of other cadets also as his personal guests.
Okay.
And when we passed out, it's a very treacherous training, very good. We are proud of it. It's among the best academies in the world, right? So naturally, training is pretty hard. And we passed out. We come out of the Chetwood Hall as officers, and I went to deposit my weapon in the court. And our ustads had lined up where from we come out as officers, right? And they had tears in their eyes. They were training us all the year to see this
Okay.
particular day. And I went ahead, my father had also come. He had also walked from that Shamiana to that place. He shook
Okay.
hands with me and he told me, now onwards, we are good friends. He said, we'll be more of friends, actually. And I want you to be a very honest officer and a dedicated officer. And I will share with you, I have written it in my book also. When he said that, I took almost an oath in my mind. Then, whenever I return from the office every day,
Hmm.
and whosoever opens the gate of my house, whether it's a helper because I was a bachelor, or it is my wife when I get married, or my parents, or anyone else, I'll walk into the house, look into that man who or lady who opens the house, if I have done something good in the office throughout the day. And if I have not done good, I should still go in, but keep my eyes down. Having said that, I don't say that I have walked every day to my house and looked into the eyes of the person who opened the gate, but it set a system of accountability for me at the end of every day.
That's
That
it.
was the year, and there's a when we pass out, when we come out of the Chetwood Hall, there's a big board. This thing is engraved there. I will read it out to you.
Yeah, please.
Safety, honor, and welfare of your country comes first, always, and every time.
That's it.
Honor, welfare, comfort of your men you command comes next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety comes last, always and every time. This
That's it.
is the thing that gets really marked on your in your mind. That's why you find that every Indian Army officer walks shoulder to shoulder with his Jawan, many times ahead of his Jawan,
Many
right?
times.
And whenever there's a break for food or something, whether it is operations or in peace, they will ensure that their Jawans have taken it first. If they
Yes. I
send
mean,
a
this
word,
statement
have they taken, then they will go and eat it,
This is so
right?
wonderful statement. This makes Indian Army different and one of the best armies of the world. Because in
Yeah.
other places, people use religion, people use other things, but in an army, you have to serve yourself the last, country the
Yeah.
first. That is
Yes.
something very great, very unique. Uh, so now let us slightly go into the arena of your great, wonderful, illustrious jobs which you have done into your career. Especially, you were the commandant of this digit also. Should we begin from there? or should
In
we
fact,
begin from?
what had happened from
Yeah,
the army, I got a chance to go for a postgraduate level course for 2 years. That was
yeah,
a civil institute, which is these days called Indian Institute of Surveying and Mapping. And
yeah.
that I converged to a particular career from there, right?
Okay.
So after passing out from there, and then I was posted to Northeastern Circle at
Yes,
Shillong.
I ask
That
about it. Northeastern. You went to McMahon Line, and it was a
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah,
insurgency infested times in those days. Yeah. Please tell
yeah,
us
yeah.
about
That
this. How did it
yeah. In
happen?
fact, what had happened, I was posted to, they called it 29 Party, and that was this area of work was Nagaland. In fact, that's the unit which had demarcated all the boundary between India and Nagaland those days, right? So I was posted there, and my director was one Colonel Chada, who afterwards became the Survey General of India. Incidentally, he was a person who's from the first course of NDA, and in his course, 4 cadets were elevated to the highest rank in India. One was this Colonel Chada, a Survey General of India. Then was General Rodrigues, Chief of Army Staff.
General
Then
Rodrigues.
was
Yeah.
then then was Air Marshal Suri, Chief
Air
of
Marshal.
Air Staff, and then was generally called as Ramu, right? Admiral Ramu. He was the Chief of Naval Staff. So his course had 4 top things, and he was a man of wits and all. So he was very particular that a young officer should be made to work in a very difficult, risky area so that he learns the tricks of the trade and becomes a good administrator and a technical officer and good in his technical work also. So he chose a very difficult area for me in
That
Nagaland.
was NEFA.
It was, huh?
Okay. NEFA,
It,
Northeastern Frontier
no,
area.
no. He chose in Nagaland
Acha,
because I was
Nagaland.
that time in this 29 party.
Okay.
And this was much beyond the last Indian post. Next to the Naga underground headquarters in Burma, right? The Indian post was on one mountain top, and you walk for about 9-10 hours. You can reach the other mountain top, but that was with Burma. Those days, Burma actually, and all Naga underground would live in Burma side, and that place was called Salau. So when I went, I had to do this work. I went to the Tunsang headquarters. Mon and Tunsang, there's a Konyak tribe there. They are the most wild tribe in Naga. Like they don't put on those is you would hardly cover them their bodies except for the private parts, both ladies and the gents actually. So they used to be pretty wild actually. So I worked in that area. So I don't know. I reached Tunsang headquarters one day. From there, I had to go to the last post, which was located on road head. Then I had to climb for about 2 days, 3 days. Then go to my area of work, cross the last Indian post and all. Like. So we were ready. I had air to the post commander of the post, which was located at the end of the road, and then we would go footy. And I tied up that I reached. It was Saturday. I told him on Sunday morning. He said, "You come, but you be sure that you have to go under security because on this axis you have to go up about 8 to 9 hours continuous going up the hill, and then there are a lot of ambushes on that. So you have to go
Oh,
absolutely under security, right?" So I said, "Okay." So Sunday I got up. I was having breakfast. My people. I was only with porters. I didn't have any other person with me, and some of my departmental people who carry those machines and all. I know what happened on the dining table. I thought, let me call on the deputy commissioner of Tunsang district. Not very sure whether he would give me appointment actually. So I called the driver and I told men, just hold on. They were all packed. Just hold on. And we tried for appointment with deputy commissioner. Luckily he was there and he gave me the appointment, and we went to his living room. I still remember he was one Mr. Chetri, right? So he told me, Captain, what has brought you here? So I told him, this is the job. It was of confidential nature. I told him apparently, and also the developmental surveys. That's what we would sound. He said, oh, I'm clear because we have been endorsed a letter from the Chief Secretary. I think your department has already written to the Chief Secretary. So I can understand what is your job. But Captain, I tell you very clearly, you are going to a very tough area. It's full of undergrounds. You are going much beyond the last Indian post. Be very careful about your personal safety and squad safety. And to add to it, you are coming the Christmas time. I think it was about 8-10 days after. He said, by this time, the self-styled commanders of Naga underground come to these villages. They are from Yankhaw, Sala, and other villages, which I was crossing. And they
Okay.
celebrate Christmas with them and also do the post-tax collection. And what I know, he wrote something in Nogmis on a chit. I was wearing a wind cheetah. So
Okay.
he gave me that, I told him what I have written. He said it will help you in giving you a contact person, because in Naga village, the language changes after almost every village. So he'll go from one village to other, and the other village head will give you another, and this will go on. It may help you, and it really did help me. But just one story I'll tell you, and then we get out of it. So when I finished work, his chit was of great help, and I went to Yankhaw, came down the hill for about 6-7 hours. Then I had to climb again. So we had a night halt. So I would go to these village heads places because I used to have that contact person with me, Naga contact, kind courtesy, Mr. Chetri. And they were all different people. They live in one room, lady and the wife, whosoever, with a dog there and all. And I had got used to living, plus spending time with them during nights and all. And at night, we all were sleeping. We were in sleeping bags, so were my men. And the head of my this class 4 employees who would carry the load and all, he woke me up. We were sleeping like dead horses. He said, sir, some 2-3 people have come. They are wearing red shawls. You wake up, don't get confused. He was a very experienced person. Wake up slowly, be composed. They are wanting to ask you questions. So when I got out of my bed, I didn't really get up. I just pulled out my head and then remained in sleeping bag only. They were not knowing any other language. They had one person with shirt and pant. He seemed to be qualified. They sent him to me. He asked me, what is your job? What are you doing? But then I showed him. But what this Mr. Chetri, I forgot to tell you. He told me,
Yes.
when are you going? I told him that day on Saturday. He said, you will not go that day. You
Okay.
erase all your ranks for your records. How much time will take? I told him I got a lot of records. He said, erase that, and how much time will you take? I told him not less than 5-6 hours. He said, do that and more tomorrow. So then I moved the next day. And then he
Okay.
checked all my records. He was a literate person, young man.
Okay.
He didn't find any army or Assam rifle indication anywhere. Right? Then he told me, why have you come? I told him, I come for developmental survey. He
Okay.
didn't believe it. Then suddenly I remembered I had got Mr. Chetri's chit and I was wearing the same wind cheetah. I opened the zip and took out that chit and showed to him. He saw that. He said, okay, you can sleep. No problem. That means this particular administrator was so popular, even amongst these undergrounds, that we were saved only because of that chit. And he didn't do anything. And next morning we got up and started for that Pesau mountain, maybe at 5:30 in the morning. And these people were raided by army.
Okay.
So we were also caught. But I told that officer, he was a captain for Maratha ally. I didn't tell him I'm an army officer. I told him we have come for development service. We are moving to Pesau. He said, you go take your squad, run out very fast. I said, okay. And when we reached Pesau, I reached in at late evening. It was already dark. I entered their territory. That Major Joshi was the postmaster waiting for me, and in front of him was one Sardar captain.
Okay.
They had lit fire. They were enjoying. And when I came, I thought I have seen this man. He looked at me. He said, "Where have we met?" Then I told him, "We have met in the morning." He is the person who had raided there.
Oh.
My God. Then he told me what for I had come. I told him I have come for this job. I told him, "Why had you raided?" He said, "We had intelligence that Brigadier Clark, the self-styled brigadier, has come with his one or two self-styled commanders from across Mumbai to celebrate Christmas with his family, and he was going for forced tax collection to these gaon, the village heads."
Villagers.
Yeah. So I told him there were 2-3 people with red shawls who left about 3-4 hours before. He said he was then Brigadier Clark. We have not caught him. We didn't know that he had come also. He said, "You thank your stars because he is very brutal." Right. So this sort of this story was there. I thought
What about the data which was erased? Which it took
no,
you around 6
I erased only my rank.
Okay.
Wherever rank was there, that person had checked, he didn't find. Had the rank been there, we would have been cut into pieces. Yes.
So that's so wonderful. It's a very tedious, very challenging job which you did, especially. I heard that you had gone up to the McMahon line and then
Yeah, that I will tell you. When I did this job, his fields and all, director was pretty happy with my job. So was my officer commanding. And that is the time I was told that I should take over the command of a high hill unit. I happened to be till then the youngest officer who was given the command of that. And this unit was responsible for part of Assam and all McMahon line. Most of them, I should not say all, most of the McMahon line. All the Arunachal Pradesh up to the McMahon line. Right. And where from in 62, through the 3 axes the Chinese had rolled down. So it's Bamdila, Bumla, Khenzamane, Dirang, and all like. So I took over the command. It was very tough work. And then we planned the surveys and all. We planned by the time I took over, it was already late. My predecessor had not inducted the fields, right? And then we inducted the fields, and immediately I started inspecting them. So each field, the camp headquarters, field headquarters is commanded by a camp officer, camp headquarters. He spreads his people to various places. He is at a place which is better, preferably a town which has a police station or telegraph office and other amenities. And his people are then spread for the work. And then their area of work was such that even the camp headquarters was out of area. People had to go uphill 4-5 days, and then their area of work will start. Right?
Oh.
So the situation was like that. So when they inducted, I went immediately. I sent my tour program and told them that I'll be visiting your people and all. And it was very good. And I told him I want to see your youngest and the oldest surveyor. This story I'll tell you, then we can switch over, right?
Okay, please.
And when I started going, it was a folly on my part, for which I was scolded by director afterwards, actually. Dirang was at 5,000 meters, while my men were deployed at around not 5,000, 5,000 feet. My men were deployed at 11,000, 13,000 feet, right? So the youngest surveyor I wanted to see was around 12,000, 11,000, 13,000 feet. And the oldest was around maybe 8,000, 9,000. So we went uphill. Weather was good. So porters were with us because the camp officer was taking rations for those people so that he replenished their rations. The beauty about this, by the time you take rations, half of them are consumed by the porters itself. Only half goes to them, right? So we went, no problem. And next day from that to the last man, weather was good. But when we started off, After 1 or 2 hours, it started snowing so much around 4 o'clock that we got separated actually. I remained only with my camp classy who was my cook and my head. He was a Sherpa type, right now? The head who was heading this. Op- well, he used to be my classy sort of a Jamadar sort of a thing. He was a Sherpa type. And finally, it happened that we were separated. I didn't see other people coming. There was a fleet of about 12, 13 people. And by that time, the sunlight had also gone off. And there is an effect when it snows, and down below we have got mountains where it is snow, you lose the height perception.
Yeah.
But he was a Sherpa type Nepali. When I
Nepali.
went, I was on the hilltop. I was putting another step. He caught me from the collar. He said, "Sir, what are you doing?" I don't know what happened. He said, "One more step and you would have gone down the cutting. It is depression here." I didn't
Oh,
visualize that. And now we were not reaching that man also. And because
listen.
of his sense, he saw down below an lake, frozen lake. There he saw a tent sort of a thing. It's because of his Sherpa sense. And we went down. He happened to be that. There happened to be that my surveyor, right?
Oh,
He went and then we were saved. Otherwise, we would have got perished. And the next day I saw him there. I recommended him for honorarium and he got it afterwards actually. And then we came back. We were worried what has happened to our people. When we came down again, it was sunny. And then we saw our people coming up. All of them were saved. That's hidden themselves under the rocks because there's no vegetation on those hills. And we joined up and came back. I thought I will share this
that's so.
story.
That's so,
Right.
and I mean, so great, exhilarating experiences about your work, and how much you have done for this great job, and how much we should be all proud of you and your team and people, the army officers like you, who are doing this most challenging, most horrific jobs for the country. Uh, Jalal Sahab, let us move slightly ahead now. Let's ramble around. And I heard that you were a sub leader of the earliest team sent to the Antarctica. That's also one of the most challenging expedition. I mean, what is the general perception about Antarctica? Could you tell us something about your work in Antarctica, your dispatch in Antarctica, and your stories and anecdotes about such an impossible place to live in the world? I mean, where you survived and you did your job very well, and you came out with something, and there was a great film. I mean, award-winning film on this, the Scientific Paradise, which was already
Yes.
telecasted about. Yeah, please tell us about
I,
those wonderful actors. Yeah.
I volunteered for the expedition. That time I was digital mapping center because we are starting digital mapping in the country after Australia and Japan. I had gone for training to US also, and we had imported these stuff. We had already operationalized things. And then I heard that I have been selected for that. And later I heard that I have been selected as team leader. So my team was supposed to have four, but those days the medical tests were so tough, very tough, as if they were testing astronauts actually for this
Oh,
Antarctica. And one person got rejected. Then another standby person came. He was
oh,
also rejected. By the time came for induction of the camp, and we were only three, with me as the sub team leader. And the director of geodetic and research branch was the person who tie up the Antarctica missions. And he told me, Pran, then he knew that I take a little more initiative. He said, even reaching Antarctica is a big expedition. You have to go through such a rough this thing, and don't be in a hurry to finish everything in this expedition because I had to induct some more teams ahead also, right? But I went. In fact, we had to carry out some GPS observations, and we had to go much beyond the Indian station, Indian Antarctica station, Matri those days. Maybe I would have to fly about 150 kilometers every working day whenever it was clear to do that work. And when we went by the ship. We were taken by Thululand, one of the costliest ships in the world. And it was a great experience to cross the ocean, at least when you go through those ferocious 40s, furious 50s, and screaming 60s. It is really, I mean, unless you experience that yourself, it is difficult to tell. Because you see how rough. You must have seen Titanic, actually.
Yes, Titanic. We have seen.
It is exactly like that. I mean, nothing less than that, to the extent that you are told not to get out of the ship, tie up every furniture and every item. You are provided ropes, right? And the ship is thrown from one end to the other with mountains of water which strike it, actually. And it starts at ferocious 50s. It is very furious at furious 50s. And it is really screaming at 60s, actually. Because of the westerly winds. Because what happens, the temperature gradient decreases and deflects. Air deflects towards the poles. And that creates this sort of phenomena. It's a wonderful experience to undergo. And then we reach Antarctica. When we reached Antarctica, it was a wonderful day that day. Absolutely wonderful. As if there was nothing rough in the sea, right? And that's where we started off. Then we were flown to the station. Just I will tell you the first day experience. We went by Mi-8. We were flown by Mi-8. Normally for my work, I would fly by Chetak. I would take another colleague of mine with me and fly with Chetak. But from ship to that, we were taken by Mi-8, Air Force. Chetak was naval chopper. And when I went this, there's nobody to help you, but you have to carry all your loads, haversack.
By Mi-8, you mean
Mi-8, Mi-8. Air Force big chopper.
Okay, big chopper.
Yes. It carries a lot of luggage, loads, and all also. Right?
It is used for many purposes.
Yes, right. And when I went there, we were directed to our hutment, and I had a very heavy rucksack. Since hours it was on my head, rather on my shoulders. So I just threw it down. And I saw a gentleman watching me from the gate of the hut with a long beard. He was the person who was wintering there. Now, of the previous, they winter there actually. They remain there during winter. Summer comes back. And he started looking towards me. He said, I also said hello and nothing more than that actually. A long beard actually. He said, Tagan. And I was shocked. I thought a Kashmiri went near South Pole.
Antarctica.
And then he happened to be the leader of that expedition. Was Hunjura. I had heard his name.
Hunjura
I had heard his name that he's the leader. I never knew he's a Kashmiri. Well, he knew that some coal is coming. That's why we all came. He came to see me how I was. Right? And then we are great friends, very great friends. Then we found we had a very common friend.
Okay.
In Rajranjan College, I had a very close friend, a partner, Inder Kishan Bhatt, who did his PhD in robotics and became director of NITs. He was director of a couple of NITs. And I was very close to him. His mother would feed me with her own hand. Really, whenever I would go to him, he would tell me, don't wash your hands. I'm going to feed. That's such a grown-up person. And she was incidentally the lady who died, who was the first casualty of a bomb blast in Srinagar, Prabha Devi. I deliberately told you the story so that we name her. And then we started our work.
So we'll have to now slightly move a bit faster.
So I will tell you
the wonderful aspects of your personality and work which needs to be talked about in this show, in this conversation. Yeah.
Now I'll tell you about one experience. We had gone what they call the Goober Mountains. It was quite far, right? Leader would take undertaking from me that I am going on my own risk. I was telling everybody has come on his own risk. Government has always said. He said, "No, whenever you go, you always give me an undertaking." I said, "Okay, there's no problem." So we went to Goober. What was done? A chopper would go, but our leader was a very experienced Antarctican. For the morale boosting of the other pilot. It would go empty where me and my one colleague would go in one Chetak. So two choppers would go one unnecessarily just for morale boosting. And the instructions were they drop us at the mountains, don't stay there because they were very treacherous areas. Wind speed would go from 0 to 100 kilometers in no time. So we are giving it all those rations, other things. Shall something happen, you will not be picked up. Right.
I don't know. There's some internet issue at General Saab's place. Let's see. And he joins back. Oh, he needs to join again. Now, yes, come again. Yeah.
Internet problems.
Yeah, there was an internet issue. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please continue.
Now then we went one particular day at Goober Mountains. Pilots decided not to go back, and radio telephony would be cut because of some local magnetic effect. It happened every day. We would not be then in touch with the station. They said they are expecting a blizzard after 1 hour, so we will not go back. So he told me, don't take 1.5 hours, you take 1 hour, and be at this venue immediately after you finish. We came and we took a couple of years. It seems the leader and the people thought that we are gone. So leader didn't have lunch and all. So he was probably preparing for what burials, I don't know, right? And by that time we came after 3-4 hours actually. And then there was rejoicing. We were received like war heroes. Then the pilots explained him what all had happened. So this was one experience actually. There are so many experiences in Antarctica. We need another Jugal Koul show to talk about many more things actually, right?
We'll do that. We'll do that. You can just explain something extraordinary if you have anyone. Otherwise, we'll move ahead because now we are left with not much great time. You can end at the end. We'll see if we can add more. Yeah. Now I want to ask one very different question. That is your assignments. You are sent on a deputation on a special assignments to your neighboring countries like China, Bhutan, Pakistan, and as well as Russia. And you are also gone to America on as a special duty. Please let us know about this duty part and what if you I mean if it is not prohibited, let us know about the whole thing. How did you go there? What was the real issue and purpose of going there? And how did you spend time there? What were the political interactions with the great men over there? Great men, I mean the men from the other countries as well. Yeah.
As regards USA, I had gone for an advanced course, right, with Intergraph Computer Corporation, actually, right? That was in connection with importing the digital mapping to our place. It was separate around for about 1 year. Part of it was done with Indian agents in India, part of it there, and part of it afterwards by their engineers when they came to India. They had generally the people from various universities, very top universities who had been professors there. Intergraph Computer Corporation had taken them on their staff. Because digital mapping is a generation of geospatial data. I had gone for a photogrammetric specialist course because I already done specialized in surveying, then advanced course for 1 year in photogrammetry, and then I was sent for that. After coming from there, we operationalized the systems back in the country actually, right? Digital mapping centers, the first few digital mapping centers after Australia and Japan. Both these countries had also taken the same equipment from Intergraph. That's about US. I'm just moving a little fast, right? Seeing the time
We are
limit.
more. We are now interesting about to listen to your days in Rawalpindi and your
Um,
days in China
and
and Russia,
and I
especially
was
China and Pakistan. Yeah.
yes. When I was young, I wanted to visit. You will not believe. I wanted to go to the two countries. I have written it in my book also. One was
Yeah.
Pakistan, another was China. Because both the countries would bother us all the time. I want to see what is the mindset and the defect with these people, right? So China probably came first. Yeah, it came first, and
Okay.
I there was a workshop of Southeast Pacific countries in
Right.
China on the same geospatial data. It was related to that. They call them the experts from different countries. Well, I was not an expert, but I was sent from army. So we were
Okay.
a team of 3 officers. I was the senior most and heading that particular delegation. And we were there for about 7 days in Chengdu. That's called the Science City of China.
Chengdu.
And Chengdu. And we also got a chance to visit Tibet.
Oh, that's a great
No,
place. Beautiful one.
that's a great place. Army officers generally are not allowed there, Indian Army officers. I don't know if any army officer before me had gone, right? Because our visas were rejected in India when they heard about Tibet. Then I
Okay.
talked to the in charge who was organizing this workshop in China. Then he said, "You cut that out, send your person again to the embassy." We cut Tibet. He said, "I will see it here when we come." And I have gone to Tibet. We visited for about 7 days. We went to the height of about 5,400 meters. So that was something great. Lot of experiences. There was a lot of communication gap.
Okay.
We would feel at ease between 9 and maybe 6 during the day because I would get an interpreter from them. Beyond that, it was very difficult, right? And
Yeah.
there were a lot of things to learn from them because they got
Yes.
a authoritarian way of working. So they work day and night. Everything, their digital mapping center we visited, they would treat it like a temple with white aprons, every operator, and people working like robots and all, right? I wanted some maps, but when I wrote the requisition, I told other 3 also, you write a requisition. My requisition was rejected. Other 2 was selected. Finally, we got some, whatever we wanted. It must have not been important for them, but for us, it was important, right? And then the Chinese officers, they were very senior who were with us. We had professors from Australia also. One professor who had been the president of Australia Association of Professors was instrumental in giving Dalai Lama the award also, right? And then the Chinese officers told me when we are leaving, I told them it has been very expensive to learn things from you. He said we have to learn 2 things from India. I said what? He said information technology and English, right?
And English.
We are
Yeah.
very weak in that. But at
Now
that
they
time,
are
we were
picking.
too advanced in information technology, right? That's about China and Russia. Russia, we had
Russia
gone on, and
is a
Russia,
great friendly country. Great friendly country. We are more
Russia is,
interested to know first about Pakistan.
yeah. In fact, Russia. I had worked with Russians in Antarctica,
Okay.
right? Because we are very near to a Russian station, right? So
Yes.
we were 4 of us, 4 members deputed to celebrate New Year with Russians. And their New Year, that time Russia had not, USSR had not broken out, right? That time they were together, but that's the
Yes.
time they were in the phase of breaking out. So it was a very long New Year because they would do chuk chuk for many states, time zones and all, because USSR was so big, right? By the time we came back, I reached at around that time, it was broken into different pieces. And when I visited Russia. It was Russia only, right? And the progress. It was the Putin's time. I've been to his hometown also, St. Petersburg. I spent a week there.
St. Petersburg
It
is a
got
famous city.
it got so much of prosperity. Because I remember when I was in Antarctica, Russians would want to sell watch, everything, but they were paupers. They were absolutely paupers. And when I visited Russia, I was really amazed to see the progress they had made in Putin's time. So that was great. It was great to work with those Russians because they still had that superior power thing in their head. Because when they
Yeah,
would
it's in their head that we
debate,
were one.
yeah, we were on a mission. They were not agreeing to what we said, and I was heading the delegation. We are a delegation of 3 brigadiers. So I would talk, and I had a Russian interpreter who was so great. She was a young girl. She was so great in translating. She would translate my technical terms also.
Oh,
Very great translator. And when they didn't agree, I told them that you tell them that I not come here to fight. Normally, this is not a diplomatic language. I have not come here to fight. I have come here to get things done for my country, and you are capable of doing that. If you have some problems, I will explain you. Wherever you are facing some algorithm problems, we will help in that algorithm, but don't try to dominate us. I said that. Then she looked towards me. She said, do I use the same language? I told her, my colleagues were laughing at me. I told her, you will not use the same language, you will use the same body language also. Right? Then she stopped and conveyed it to them. Finally, they learned we mean business, and then they became very friendly. At the end, they said that we were very much worried the first day that their leader is very conservative, but afterwards we found that he is very friendly, and we did everything as what we had to do it. That was that. Next was
Indian,
Bhutan. I
Indians don't
was,
Indians don't
huh?
like domination. Indians don't
Yeah,
like
yeah,
domination.
and not at all, not at all.
Not at, we don't tolerate domination. Yeah.
Yes, and then second about
Pakistan.
after this was Bhutan,
Yeah,
and
Bhutan is a friendly country. Yeah.
Bhutan is a very friendly country. There was the Indo-Bhutan cooperation mission project. It was on the lines of UN project, on the lines of that, but all finance was done by India. So the project was already there. I had gone there, but though I was not very senior that time, I was a lieutenant. They termed as a senior level expert. I had to accept some systems from Switzerland, photogrammetric systems, and some
Diplomatic.
software from University of Austria, right? So it was a long deputation abroad, right? Maybe I remained there for 2 months. I went couple of times. I went couple of times to do that job actually, and it was really, really great. It is such a scenic country, and the secretary government of Bhutan, who was
Bhutan is beautiful.
he afterwards, my family joined me last 4 days. I had finished my work. Then he told the project coordinator for the Indian, he told him a vehicle to be given to them. My wife and daughter had come, and they should be taken to every place wherever they want to go. Right? They were too kind actually, and that was very expensive to work with those Austrian experts, then that Switzerland experts in installing the system, operationalizing the system, training the Bhutanese. That was my job, training them and see that they were giving training in a very optimum way by those people. And as regards Pakistan, I was commanding digit. I had just returned from Russia, and it appears Surveyor General of India had asked for me. He had written to pass a case from Science and Technology Ministry to the Ministry of Defense to revert me back to Survey of India as Director, International Boundary Directorate. That was a
Yeah.
cell that was converted to a directorate.
You were the
And
first
finally,
director. You were the first
within
director.
first and within couple of days, Survey General ensured that I was out of the army that time, and I took over as Director, International Boundary Directorate. And many things started activating that time. Maybe he was anticipating that. So it was the time Mr. Musharraf,
Was the president.
he was the president, and Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister of India. And they had started having those confidence building measures. So they wanted to sort out the Sar Creek issue.
Okay.
So I was told, I got a ring from the Surveyor General of India and from the Ministry of External Affairs. Be ready for a meeting. Surveyor General is also coming, and you people, delegation will be going to Pakistan to discuss this issue. So we had a couple of meetings, and I was told Surveyor General didn't come in the first delegation. He told me my full powers on land are with you. It was led by Admiral Rao, was heading the National Hydrographics Office of Navy, because Sar Creek is a land come ocean issue. Whatever land is decided based on a formula, the projection of it comes on the sea. So main thing is on the land. I was told by External Affairs Ministry, in fact, Surgeon General wanted to clarify that, because it's only the leader who talks. So I told them, suppose on land you are telling, what do I? They said, ultimate thing on land will be yours. Leader will take okay from you on the land. And it was very expensive, very expensive. We didn't agree on a thing. Pakistanis wanted survey to be done to a limited scale. We wanted to go ahead because that was in their area. And that time I have seen how the patience works. For 1.5 day, we were repeating the same dialogue, only adding Your Honor, Your Excellency, but we were not really agreeing. During that time, we got a chance to call on the Defense Secretary, the Additional Secretary Defense, right? And it is good to share that our TV programs were very popular there. The Additional Secretary Defense told me that what was that program? Smriti Irani's Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. He said that is so, traffic comes to grinding halt, and my wife does not permit us to have dinner till the time this thing is over. It was so popular. Oh, yeah. And the Defense Secretary, when we to him, he used the same language. He said, that Smriti Irani has put magic over whole of Pakistan. What was her name in that? I forget her name. Yes, she named that.
I didn't see that serial. I mean,
it was very popular
with the ladies, very ladies.
Yeah. And I remember my dialogue by Defense Secretary. We already had tea in the Indian High Commission, and then we went to these. We were told to just 3-4 of us were identified to call on these people. And when Defense Secretary said, "You have a cup of tea," we were together. Admiral Rao was there, so I told him, "We just had tea, sir." So he has also been ex-army. He said, "Brigadier, have you not seen what we have learned in army?" I told him, "Sir, but you tell me what it is, what is in your mind." He said, "In army, we never refuse 2 things." He said, "One is gali and another is chai." A cup of tea. Then I told him, "Sir, we will have tea." There's no problem. Right?
And you had your pictures with President Musharraf. You were invited.
I'll tell you what happened. This was my first visit. So second day, what happened very interesting.
General Sahab, you stayed there how long? Kab tak rahe aap?
First visit for about 3-4 days, right? During this delegation. And during that visit, what we did, they were about to take us in the evening for some sightseeing. But I decided with the Surveyor General of India, of Pakistan, that we would stay, but we were not agreeing to go ahead, right? Okay. I told him, suppose we agree, shall we make out some sort of a technology? How do we do the work? He was so good. He was a major. He said, "I agree with you. We will sit with you, my people." The naval people went for the sightseeing because they depend on the decision on land only. And I was supported by one Brigadier Grish. He was also in my unit, was attached to the external. He afterwards became the Surveyor General of India. He has retired last year.
Okay.
So I had his support with me. He also said, "Sir, we'll stay." Then we worked out a full methodology. Shall the talk succeed? We will do this, and we converted into a memorandum, not of understanding, the discussion points, right? And next day, it so happened when we were about to leave, there was lined by Pakistanis, and we changed our uniform, turned to civvies were to catch the flight, and there one GHQ officer, one brigadier, he was the person who would give their spokesman in Kargil ops. He came, me and General Rao were taking soup. He said, "I got a good news for you." General Rao asked him, which in this Admiral Rao? He asked him, which good news? He said, "We have agreed to what you said. We agree."
Yes. You
So it was, we
succeeded.
were leaving. Then said, "What to do?" So I told General Rao, we have made that point of discussions yesterday, and that is already feared on computerized. We have taken printouts. Then that became the memorandum of understanding.
Of
We
understanding.
signed on that. We signed on that. It was wonderful. And there we had decided where do we work. Then all that's a big story at Wagah border. Nights they will go out. I had suggested that, he had agreed to that, Surgeon of Pakistan, and they did. Then they did the joint surveys. Then the joint survey is complete. They were signed by our surveyors, their surveyors, survey officers, right? And
Okay.
next visit was
Sir
to,
Creek line. There was a dispute on Sir Creek line.
yeah, there was a dispute of Sar Creek line, and
Yeah.
next, and this particular discussion was held that we will do the joint surveys. So joint surveys were done. Then second visit also came for this memorandum, no, this friendly measures only between Prime Minister and President Musharraf. And that time we went again. That time Surveyor General was the leader. They had raised the level, right? He was the Surveyor General of India. And then we went there, and these surveys were already signed. We went to the hotel the first day. It was quite dark. It was late evening, and we learned that President Musharraf is coming with his wife to the hotel,
Oh,
and he would be having dinner with us. We didn't believe. I just did the anecdote. We didn't really believe, because when we came, it was the month of June probably. But Sir Reginald told me take a blazer also, because at times we had a press conference, and my wife had put some ties in that. So I told Admiral Rao, "Do you have ties?" He said, "No, I take blame. Okay, if you need, you tell me." And when we learned this, then there was a Pakistani coordinator also, one Lieutenant Colonel. He was a liaison officer. Then he started showing me, "Yeah, yes, yes." I couldn't understand. I told him, "Sir, what are you telling?" He said, "Yeah, Kant Langot." I realized he's wanting tie. So, 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 so I told him the things have been taken to the room. Do you want me to go? He said, "No, President is coming anytime. No, be like that." So that is how he came. He had dinner with us. He had afterwards a photograph. His wife was, he was in casuals. His wife was in casuals. Okay. And he wanted this thing to be resolved. He told me when we are introduced, I was introduced as Survey General introduced me as Director, International Boundary Directorate. He also heard that I'm Koul. He must have thought he's a Kashmiri. He said, "Brigadier, I have given instructions to my officers to be terribly flexible, and I expect it from you." I told him, "Sir, we will try to do our level best." And then next day, there were meetings. Then I signed on behalf of India. Their person signed on behalf. Then we exchanged it. Then came back to India. And then we were called by Mr. Menon, the Foreign Secretary, Surveyor General, me, Admiral Rao, and one or two more officers, Brigadier Girish also. And I told the survey roles were in my hand. I told Mr. Menon, "Nothing much has happened. It's not resolved." He said, "You don't know what has happened. Till now we were air. Our differences were in air. Now it is already recorded where we are differing. We can take it ahead." He said, "I'm calling the External Affairs Minister also for a presentation of a couple of days. This was Pranab Mukherjee that time. And after a few days, he called him. We were introduced. We gave present. Surgeon gave presentation. Admiral Rao gave presentation. It was a job very well done. So Pakistan
So
was
you
a great
liked it?
experience. We were taken those anarkali markets, other things,
Anarkali
right?
Bazaar. Yeah.
Anarkali market. It's like our
Market.
Carol ball. It's like our Carol ball.
It's an old market, old
It's
street.
very, very old market.
Yeah. So that was how you went there, and Pakis ultimately you came, you I mean conquered. You I mean finally got what you wanted to be there. Have there.
Yeah, that's right.
Eh?
That's right.
That's
That's right.
something. That's something very great. So let's come to now, Jan Sahab. We are heading for the time now. It's almost quarter to 2 hours we have been on.
Why? Well, I'm very happy it's like that. I didn't realize.
Because anecdotes are they are so wonderful. I mean, we can go on, and there are a number of things about your life
Yes.
and thoughts about Antarctica with digit. You didn't talk about the digit, and many other areas about your
Yes.
speeches, about your going out to the places and your articles, your books. Let's talk about immediately talk about your authorship, because especially this silence speaks and resonant. What is that?
Resonating ripples.
Resonating ripples. They are the
Yeah.
wonderful titles. I just want a brief, especially silence speaks. You can just expand a bit broader.
The Silence Speaks is about my journey from the dense streets of Sopo
Right.
to the GHQ headquarters, Pakistan Army. I have truncated it there, right? It
Right.
takes through it takes through various like whatever I talked to you about our Bonhomie in Sopo, neighbors, Muslim neighbors. This I'll then my college days, then Indian Military Academy days,
Okay.
and then the frontier surveys, frontier callings, and then the Antarctica. It's all about that journey. The important highlights are included in that. The Silence Speaks.
And what about the resonating ripples you're talking about?
There I have to share a story. Don't be sad, right?
Okay.
Don't be sad. Huh? Into Silence Speaks, in fact, I wrote when I got superannuated. The first thing I told my wife, we got settled down in Greater Noida. I sat to write a book, brain to the hard disk, right? Directly keying in. And we published that. And around 2020,
Yeah.
March, I was diagnosed for blood cancer.
Yes, yes. I knew
Right?
that. I never. Yeah,
Yeah,
wanted
I
to.
didn't. I also didn't touch, but it one has to speak now. Since you talked about resonating ripples, I was admitted for 1.5 months in JP hospital, and during that 1.5 months, I weaved a rough skeleton of the book within my mind. Actually, right? There was nothing to write. This was within my mind, and I was treated by two doctors. I would like to name them. One was Dr. Isha Kaul, another was Dr. Nevita. Dr. Isha Kaul is the in charge, was complimented by her. She is one of the greatest, I say, one of the people for whom I got a lot of regard. There's so much of expertise in this, and I'm living because of these two doctors. I call them the lady angels, who are privileged to bestow life to the humans, right? So when I was discharged, I wanted to name them, right? So when I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't know how long I would live. So I was in a hurry to write this book and get it published. In the meantime, a soldier friend of mine shared an incident which was shared with him by another soldier friend who had taken an advance party to a village for a search, advance search party. So I was impressed upon by the incident. I made a short story out of it that is called An Earthen Cup of Homemade Curd. Right. And I
And
made
another
story. I
thing
abridged it with a bouquet of my poems through a chord. I called it connecting chord. Right. So then I was in a hurry. The publisher agreed to publish the book. It took a couple of months. And when I received the books, I kept 2 copies for the 2 doctors, one for Dr. Isha Kaul, one for Dr. Navita. And when I wanted to give them that morning, I felt a little uncomfortable. I sent a message to Dr. Isha. She said, "You come to the hospital." I took these 2 books, gave it to each of them. She said, "We'll get tests done and you wait for a couple of hours till the time the reports come. Everything should be okay." When the reports came, I was called in. I found pin drop silence in her chamber. These 2 doctors were sitting there. She said, "Sir, you're not going home. I'm admitting you just now. This thing has relapsed."
Oh,
Right.
very sad.
It relapsed after 8, 9 months, 7, 8 months. So I said, "Nothing, no problem, man. As you wish." So I got admitted. And this I have been telling every time. I told in a talk yesterday also, where Dr. Isha Koul was listening also. I told her everything is fine, but I am in another catch 22 situation. She said, "What?" I told her I am committed for a global talk by an Indo-American club that's called a Story Club. After 2 days, I have committed to them. Now, what I will do, I will cancel that talk because they have given the message to all their contacts all over the countries wherever they have contacts. She said, "Why should you cancel the talk?" He said, "You give the talk from your room. I will give you all the
Oh,
support from here." And she supported so much, you will not believe,
great persons, great human beings.
supported so much that nobody except the producers of the show and my family members knew that I am speaking from the hospital. And that talk,
So great, so magnanimous people.
so magnanimous, so magnanimous. And now this same lady, I admitted me for 1 month. I was seen by the same doctors, and then she told me, "Now you have become quite all right, but I can tell you in case it relapses once, it's a tendency it may relapse again. So I will advise you a bone marrow transplant." She did the bone marrow transplant. What? She did the admitted me for bone marrow transplant. It is not a convenient procedure, right? It's
It's a very difficult.
very,
I've heard of
very,
some cases.
I should say, a very unfriendly, friendly procedure, right? Right? Like you say, informally formal show, right?
Informal.
So I was admitted for 1 month. I was okay after that. I'm feeling very great. Incidentally, yesterday I was invited as one of the guests by Max Health here,
So,
mainly because of Dr. Isha. And yesterday I had a talk there also. So some of the very little stories I had told there. So that was a brief talk, and she knew that I am due for your talk today. I hope she is listening because today is Sunday. She is a very busy doctor,
so,
never gets to
but
see
they can see
TV
it
or
anytime. It is there on YouTube. They can watch it
yes,
anytime. Anytime. Yeah.
yes. So
So
that was
that was,
then. I wrote this resonating ripples, right?
yeah, you're talking about resonating ripples. Yeah.
Yes. I always felt these poems like ripples, right?
So that's so wonderful talking to you, General Saab. It was an amazing, amazing show, a conversation about your expeditions, of course, your challenges, your
Mm.
life, your native land, so forth, and then your challenges of your health. And finally, you have come victorious. You are a fighter right from the beginning, and that's what Indian Army taught you. And
Yeah,
that's why,
that's
by the
right.
grace of Master, is always there, and grace of the your Purvaj, your people, your native land is also there. And what we believe in is that when you do good, good things happen around. Good things are around. So that's how it is, and was a great, great, great show. But first of all, before going, I like you to say something to our diaspora to the general people, to the youngsters, from your experiences of your life, what is the one-liner or two-liner you want to communicate to our people? General sir, from you. Yeah.
So one is, I tell my children also, we should be good Indian citizens. That has a lot of load within it, right? You should do your work, put in your best possible. Don't bother about your seniors. Take care of your juniors, because your juniors are the best critics. I have frankly done that, right? And eventually you find that your seniors also like you, right? And second thing is what I told you. It is applicable to everyone. When you go back to your home from your workplace, anybody opening the door for you, look into his eyes if you have done good work. If you have not done, enter, but keep your eyes down, right? So these two messages are sufficient, and I am a very optimistic person. I should say they should always hope for good, because hope is always a big hope. Hope is always a big hope.
Hope keeps us moving ahead.
Yeah, it keeps us moving.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, General Saab. It was so pleasure, exhilarating, great, enchanting, enriching experiences with a personality of such a multi-dimensions. Although I could not cover all the things in it, you had many other things also, which are connected with your personality, your speaking, your papers, your connection, and your philanthropy, your meeting people, you are being part of the Lions Club and other things as well. So I wish you all the best. Good luck, best wishes, good health from Shitala Conversations and all the spectators who are watching you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
For
you
pleasure.
so much. Jai Hind
Jai
once
Hind.
again. And I tell you, it's your 60th show. Generally,
Yeah.
things superannuate at 60, but you are 60 shows young. Keep it
Thank you.
young. The quality of show is fantastic. I wish you all the best. Right? Any service for me in future, I'd be great. I'll be always available.
My pleasure.
Wish all
Thanks.
the best, and Jai Hind to everybody.
Jai Hind.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
right.
So that was Major General Pran Kaul, the multifaceted personality with an illustrious career in the army, who served the country and the motherland and the people, a great native of Kashmir, a very rational mind, who gave us an idea how to live a life in very optimistic way, looking at his lifespan, lifescape, looking at his entire treacheries and the good things and the bad things oscillating in his life. I think something coming out from such a great personality should be very valuable to all of us who are watching this program. So that was all for today. But before I go, I will, because I'm a very great follower of Galib, so I like his couplets very much. So I like to present one couplet in the honor of the general, which was in our show just now. होता है निहा गर्द में, होता है निहा गर्द में, सहरा मेरे होते, सहरा इज द रेगिस्तान, होता है निहा गर्द में, सहरा मेरे होते, गिस्ता है जबी खाक में, दरिया मेरे आगे. So with that
Very good.
wonderful couplet, I'd
Very
like to
good.
say goodbye and good luck. We'll be meeting again next Sunday at 7 p.m. at Sheetal Conversations 61st show. Thanks a lot. Best wishes. Best luck. Good night.
Good luck. Thanks. Good, sir.